Happy Friday and welcome to TableTakes here in Caldata Studios. We are, of course, here joined by myself, Emma, Derek, and Christian. And we got a lot of really exciting news today if you guys are into it. Guess what? Kickstarter just released a couple of exciting news specifically about games on there. Emma, you want to head and tell us about that?
Yeah, well, we have numbers for 2019. Successful tabletop game projects raised a new record of $176.4 million, up 7% from 2018. So yeah, Kickstarter board games specifically are very successful.
And well, tabletop games in general, yeah.
Yes, tabletop games in general. So that includes role-playing games, minis games, board games, the 5th consecutive year of growth. So hand over fist, board games, physical games in general have just been continuing to climb. Number of projects funded grew more. 2,712 projects were funded, up 16% from 2018. So not only is the amount of money that games are raising going up, the number of projects funded is going up as well. Games account for more than 30% of projects, so more than a third of projects on Kickstarter for the backer revenue that's coming in. So games.
All yeah, it looks like Kickstarter is just finally becoming a game store.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, and that is games. The third is digital and physical games.
Well, but on the note of digital games, it's very interesting because I think in the kind of the nascent period of Kickstarter, before it was kind of locked into our consciousness, video games were a huge part of that. And there were a lot of really high-profile video games that were funded there.
And they're getting released just next year.
Yeah, some of them came out.
Yeah.
Some of them were good.
Yeah.
Those were not necessarily the same, and some of them have not come out.
Waiting.
Some are totally abandoned. So I feel like there was a little bit of a burn on video game Kickstarters, because you can see that in the numbers that where video game Kickstarters were high, they dropped off pretty precipitously.
Yep.
And I think that this past year, is the first year that the volume of revenue for video game Kickstarters has started to inch back up again.
Yeah.
Whereas tabletop has just kind of been growing the entire time.
Probably because they have more people coming to Kickstarter who haven't previously been burned. As someone who has been burned by digital game Kickstarters, something that I was very excited about for a period, and not even just burned, it's like even if the game does come out a lot of times, it's not exactly what you expected, and they need more money, and a lot of...
Video game design and publishing, I think, is almost kind of a project on a scale that most people just don't get.
Right, yeah.
So
it's like you raised $2 million, you can make 10 video games for that. It's like, no, we can make a 10th of one video game.
It takes a lot of money.
Yeah, even the indie games, even like a couple people, like 3 people made this game, in their spare time, still ends up taking a lot of money.
Yeah.
I think, and not to mention Kickstarter takes a good chunk of that final number.
I think
as somebody who's made a few movies off of Kickstarter, I can tell you, I don't see all that money.
Video game companies are moving more to the pre-release, like the pre-order model, alpha releases on Steam, and just kind of like putting stuff out and making money as opposed to going on to Kickstarter.
Plus, we're seeing more and more of those $1 Kickstarters that drive me crazy a little bit, where it's not something that they need to fund so much as a commercial for the game that they are going to be releasing.
Right. And I think what's really interesting about this is we had the numbers, we talked about the numbers, I think a couple of months ago for board games in general.
Yes.
And even just talking to a lot of publishers over the past few months, companies are actually a little bit bearish about board games in general. And I think retail is really where it's becoming a little bit trickier. Not to say that retail is failing, board game retail in any sense, but I don't think they're having quite the year-over-year growth that Kickstarters are having. So I think Kickstarter is really where the growth is happening in board games, and if you think the whole industry is growing at the same rate, I don't think that's necessarily correct.
For my question for you guys is, do you think the reason why specifically the board game category is going so well is because overall on Kickstarter they tend to have the most success in terms of like...
I don't think so.
No?
I don't think from a lot of people, it's weird because my perspective is like a super backer, which is basically code for people with poor impulse control.
And money.
Who tries to get their friends.
The person who has a problem and has a show dedicated to getting their friends to spend the money that they don't want to spend.
We don't know anyone like that.
No, good.
No.
So, like, from my perspective, like things like, what has this person done before? You know, what is their, like, do they have another active project going? Like, has that one filled? You know, what was my experience the last time I backed this person because I probably recognized it? Like, that kind of stuff comes into play when you are obsessed with it.
Yeah, like you're a Kickstarter pro, Derek.
Yeah.
Like for me, who like I back maybe 2 or 3 things a year if something super catches my eye, just because I don't have a lot of finances to throw around or a lot of room in my house for new crap. But I know what those metrics are because I follow those Kickstarter those Kickstarter fans regularly because it pertains to my business.
But I think a lot of people who go to Kickstarter don't. Like, they're just not even aware of that. They're not going to do research. They're not going to, like, sit there and kind of weigh how successful is this category, versus another one. Like,
and games are a cheap buy-in with pretty colors. Yeah. So
they're not weighing stocks to see what the average return is down the road. They're like, do I love this project? Should I put money into it? Do I feel like I'm missing out if I don't?
I feel, though, there is some protection from people like you because the Kickstarters... No, you're protecting the rest because you do the research.
Okay, so I'm doing the protecting.
We need to be protected.
It's not that you need to be protected from me.
You people from now on. Is that okay, Derek?
You people, Derek.
So because there are so many pros and industry people who are paying attention to these things, oftentimes sometimes there is a Kickstarter that goes crazy that maybe isn't that great, but usually the ones that are super successful do have, because you have the early adopters who bandwagon and jump in on it. And so the games, like, you have more data, you have more proof that this is going to be a good thing because people have done the research to find out about it and people are talking about it on Twitter, whereas a more traditional brick and mortar release, like, you just go in there and you see the game, like, maybe you can look up the review on BGG or something, but you don't have that same proof that even just like, 10,000 other people wanted this game. There is something there that, maybe 10,000 people can definitely be wrong, but maybe they're right.
There's a good and bad side of that, but there's definitely, like, there's a feeling that if a lot of people have backed something, it's made a lot of money, it's been very popular. If it was really bad, somebody would have raised a red flag. Like, I think that's why a lot of the projects, when they hit a certain level, kind of start to snowball. Because people feel comfortable and safe.
Red flags are really easy to ignore. The more people that are already on the bandwagon.
Chat note. I know I'm not going to say the game, but chat made note of a particular one that people are salty over.
But so, like, that's also an example. Like, Star Citizen is what is in chat. But
yes. Where's my money from that?
but there are people who are playing it now and are having a ton of fun with it. So, like, there's also the question of, like,
are they really though? Or is
are you really going to go to someone and be like, are you really having fun with it?
Or is it just that you convinced yourself?
That's a very tough line to walk, though. I try to just, like, if someone says they're having fun, they're having fun. Let them have fun. It's not usually worth it to try to argue with them that they're not really having fun.
No, that thing you're doing that you like, it's not really fun.
I know the truth.
You dumb bastard.
What I think we're getting at here is, like, I think that the thing that has been most influential on and most beneficial to tabletop Kickstarters is not the fans being super rigorous in research or the category as a whole doing well. I think what has been great is the tabletop Kickstarters that have succeeded sharing their real world lessons with the ones that follow. Because if you look there in the beginning of tabletop Kickstarters, there were plenty. Like, some of my first tabletop Kickstarters still have not delivered. But I think later projects have learned a lot of valuable lessons from those. And in general, I haven't paid attention to the other categories, but I feel like tabletop games has been pretty transparent in a lot of cases, and given a lot of the lessons they've learned for the following projects to kind of pick up from.
And I think people are becoming more savvy in general. You keep getting new people coming, but if you see a project and there's not a lot of information on the page, if they don't seem to know yet what the game design is going to be or what they're going to use for a printer or for a publisher, the ones that have a lot of updates and a lot of information are generally the ones that, hey, turn out that they actually deliver on time. So there's a lot of education and learning, and people just care a lot in it. You know, most like you do get some shysters on there, but for the most part, people are just trying to make the stuff that they love and make a living doing that.
I do feel like the games Kickstarters in general, tabletop or video game, has a very different culture, expectation, and investment than say like the tech Kickstarters.
Oh my gosh, yes. Just the high touch.
Higher success rate
level.
too.
Higher success.
Yeah.
Much higher success rate. Like as far as like ratios of success go, you know, you get under the 30% mark for some of those tech Kickstarters and over the 90% mark for the board game Kickstarters.
Yeah, I am still salty about my world's thinnest watch that I will never have, and I think about it sometimes, and it makes me sad.
Oh, it's okay.
Do we need to have like a Kickstarter support group?
I just Kickstarter.
I will come to every meeting.
My name is Derek, and I've backed this project, and I still don't have the details.
Oh, no, but this one imploded.
I'm still waiting for
this
certain
one,
dice.
we got the legal documentation saying the company had been dissolved, and you are never, ever, like, we are never, ever getting back together with the world's thinnest watch.
Wow.
Did you just Taylor Swift? All right. But yes.
Anyways.
Yeah, speaking from those, like, from Kickstarter's point of view, more to a more established board game company. Going on for Christian, you have some news about D&D and Hasbro, right?
I do. Hasbro is going to be releasing its a new Dungeons and Dragons co-op board game. It's going to be out somewhere in this year, they say. It's basically it's like a quick start, you know, sort of entry-level D&D experience is what they're kind of selling it as, but really it's just a co-op board game
Yeah.
with a D&D flavor to it. It shouldn't be, you know, it's 2 to 4 players, so small group, you know, for kids, it should be great. But you're going to be able to find it at tons of Targets, I'm sure.
Yeah.
The key point of news here, though, is it's Hasbro releasing it,
Yes.
not WotC. So it's not very often that Hasbro
Puts their own name
something
on
out.
something like that.
Yeah.
But
Especially when they've got a good, you know, front company like Wizards of the Coast to place the blame on when things don't go their way.
Right, or WizKids.
I have no bitterness.
A lot of the games are
I feel salt.
published through WizKids.
Well, so I think there's a couple different things I think happening there.
Yeah.
One is like with the WizKids situation, or Gale Force 9. I think they've done that too.
Yeah.
They've allowed them to kind of license to publish a game.
Yeah.
Some of those games have been designed in house. Some of them not.
Yeah.
But I think this is more akin to the Stranger Things beginner box.
Yes.
That was not a WotC product. It was a Hasbro product, even though it was D&D and everything else. So I'm really curious.
Pretty sure they had WotC employees working on it.
I'm sure they did, but putting the Hasbro name on it instead of the WotC name on it is a really interesting choice on their part. So I kind of wonder if this game, or how this game is going to be, you know, marketed and positioned. I'm really curious.
It's going to be positioned in a big box store because
Yeah,
they put the
absolutely.
Hasbro name on it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
mass
It's the mix
market.
between, you know, it's niche, mainstream. Hasbro's over on this side.
I'm really interested to see how this turns out. There's just so many D&D. I mean, not even just dungeon crawlers that are D&D-esque,
Yes.
but actually themed D&D board games. There's just been so many of them over the years. I've played many of them. An incredible range of fun and quality to them. So I'm interested if this is a more casual experience. Like, I love more casual experiences. I'm interested to see if it's just is a fun one.
I'm expecting Candyland with kobolds.
I don't
mean, I
know.
wouldn't
They-
hate-
And character classes.
I like candy.
like this.
I do too. I'm not knocking Candyland.
The
I'm just saying.
Stranger Things D&D, you know, that's like, they didn't dumb down D&D. They
Yeah.
had, like, they still has Dungeons and Dragons, just with a Stranger Things candy coating to it.
Yeah.
So,
This
Well,
is
the
going to
Stranger
be
Things
a board
adventure.
game with a D&D candy coating on it.
I guess
Probably casual, something to pick
yeah,
up, you know.
yeah.
Chat's wish is for Hasbro's to grab Heroescapes again. That's
Chat can keep wishing.
Chat can keep wishing.
You know,
That's
you
what,
say you can wish in one hand and something. I don't remember.
Didn't Heroescape come out, go away, come back out, and then go away again?
Yeah.
I mean, like,
So it's
I
due for a
want,
comeback.
I want WotC to put out Netrunner again. That would be great, but
Yeah,
Well,
but
you could-
that's just you. I think.
there has to be
Like
something
there's a big like Heroescape Underground, like boy, I
there's
missed
a big
that game.
Netrunner Underground 2. You take that back.
There is a small.
We're all online.
Look, I know, and Germany is a huge country. I get that. And they're all Netrunner
is an
fans.
underground community of some undetermined size. So just leave it at that.
Yeah. Everyone can have
You
their
literally
passions.
could have been talking about a street gang just then.
Now I want to know the Hero
Can neither
Scapers street
confirm
gang.
nor-
Yeah.
They're like in the back alley, like chucking dice for Hero Scapers.
But yeah, that is that we'll just have to wait and see what comes out of this, because like they said, Hasbro's gonna throw their big name, boom, Hasbro, at it, and then it becomes more quote unquote mainstream in certain circles.
Yeah.
It's also interesting that Asmodee UK was apparently the one who released the news for this.
Yes.
So I wonder if they're involved, if Asmodee's involved as a
Either that or
production
there's some
side.
like brilliant games journalists working there for no reason at all.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. Or I doesn't Asmodee in Europe, aren't they a major distributor? So I wonder if it was released because they were distributing it in Europe.
Oh.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It could be, except for France.
Oh yeah, not France.
Not
just
France, anywhere but France.
Did they not? I'm sorry, just off topic, but the France not being able to print new D&D 5th edition stuff.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think we had.
Now, for those of you who are not following along, Dungeons & Dragons, or as it's called in France, La Dungeons & Dragons, is not available to be printed in that country right now.
In that country. Surprising. But yes.
You have to get your French-speaking copies, I guess, from Belgium now.
Or Canada.
Well, there's actually some real
I
exciting...
think they just write stuff in French there. I'm pretty sure they don't speak it.
No.
Have you been to
Right
Quebec?
now, all of Quebec like flips their tables everywhere.
How dare you? No.
We just lost our Quebec audience.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. They were mostly just complaining about the show anyway.
Oh,
Why is it not in French?
just keep digging that hole.
We just did Blood Dungeons and Dragons.
Le Dungeons & Dragons. Come on.
Dungeons and Dragons.
That's comedy gold right there. It's a problem. So there you go.
Yeah.
Wizards of the Coast involved, certainly, but Hasbro is releasing a D&D co-op board game
Yes.
for ages 10 and up.
Cozy. On exciting news that Wizards is doing, it's very magical exciting news that Emma will be very excited to talk about.
Magically?
Magically.
Magically and excitedly.
Magically delicious.
Magically.
This is very interesting news. It's something that we haven't seen before. So Wizards has announced a Greenlight fund for Magic content specifically. So this would be video content, digital content, anything, not games being designed, but content where it's sharing and spreading the good word of Magic the Gathering.
I think Bonsai's first response was, "Who wants to make TableTakes into the magic show?"
Well, I mean,
TableTakes the Gathering.
it could be like noobs to pros, the
Yeah,
game.
For the game, we could do anything.
We could do.
And the reason that we're so excited about this, so
Yes.
this is
Players of varying skill levels all the way up to pro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The spectrum of suck, we will call it.
yeah, and we'll play against each other,
Yeah.
and it will be great. I think this is a
And the
great
good
idea.
players will beat the bad players.
Well, one day we might.
No, maybe you never know
Yeah,
what's
you
gonna
never
happen. Magic, anything could happen. This
No,
is
I
part
think
of the.
legally Magic is a game of skill. For legal purposes,
Just
Magic
like,
is a game of
I
skill.
think that just like in every fantasy setting, Magic has a cost.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
So this is going to be part of the new Magic Creator Program, which is launching in 2020, and they have set aside, wait for it, $1 million for this fund. Eric's kind of doing it.
you're not doing it. You got to do it.
He just lives there. That's his normal place.
Yeah. So it's aimed at building up the video content. They're accepting pitches, so you, our audience, might be interested in this for shows to be produced. And the projects will receive anywhere from $5,000 to $250,000 in funding.
So here's the thing: if we were to get $250,000 to make a
Yes.
Magic show,
Yes.
and we each had to pick like one color to represent, which color would
Red.
it be?
Red.
Oh,
So you'd all be fighting over red.
Yep.
I'm very aggro. Oh wait, I guess I could do green.
I mean, I'm obviously going to take black.
Red, 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 black. Yeah, that's fine.
No, but no, we can't share colors.
Why you gotta be? I'll
I don't
change
think I need the handicap of playing a color that
you
I'm
were
not
gonna go
familiar
white,
with when
no?
you're very
White?
good at this game.
No, ew, gross.
There,
that's
that's
far and away
right.
the
High
best-
five.
You are far and away the best Magic player at this table.
You
I
are.
think that we can say that without any kind of
So
argument.
she gets dibs on colors.
no,
first.
she gets
no,
last
I get
pick
black.
because she's gonna beat us all anyway.
Okay, I'll do blue.
Okay. You're gonna do blue?
Oh, great.
Yeah, I'll make you all suffer.
That's right. If I'm playing the red deck, it's just going to be like, oh, thank you. I just milled my entire
I
card.
will
They're all
build my
gone.
trees.
You attempt to resolve this card. You must ask me permission.
For the record,
putting
I just
that on
want
the
I just
table.
See,
want
that sounds like your style already.
I want the record to represent that white is bad.
It's better. It's better. It's good
We
now.
have the internet. We
it's
know.
way boring.
Okay, but I'm running a mono white deck that's actually kind of fun. Anyways, this is all sidebars.
Yes.
So, long story short, you can make a lot of money for content. Like this is, I can't even think of any other company, digital, any other brand that's dumped this amount of money into content creation.
I can't think of another company that's made me want to write a show in one day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's also really interesting that this very closely mirrors the program they had to improve stores, if you remember correctly. Because they had a very similar thing of, we have this fund to
Yes.
help stores improve. So I find it very encouraging. Like it's very gratifying, I guess, to see Wizards putting aside these large investments in making sure that there is a physical place for people to go hang out and play Magic,
Yeah.
and that there's a digital space for people to go hang out and play Magic effectively.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Christian, just from having your own shows and different casts that you do, how does like this announcement make you feel like they're offering like the price range? That
Oh,
they
I wish I had more time to create content. Honestly, like I feel like I could absolutely make something that they would want to buy.
Yeah.
But I also think very highly of my own abilities. So
That's
you
good.
know.
You should.
You should.
No, I'm good at stuff.
But this is a very interesting push too, because it's only within the last few years after making Magic Arena for the long time, as we've seen on Fireside, Wizards of the Coast has been doing productions and casting tournaments for years, like almost since the very beginning. They've been getting the game out there. They were on ESPN very early on, but over the last few years they had online, and it's actually very hard to kind of cast physical paper Magic and make that fun and interesting. Honestly, even as someone who loves Magic, it's kind of a high barrier to do that. So with Arena, with more content, they're seeing.
I enjoy playing it. I don't want to watch it.
Yeah. So but as a modern day company like this, you need to have people watching you. Like everything is streamed, right?
Yes.
Like we're streaming right now, so you need to have eyeballs.
Oh, boy.
Wait, what?
I was not informed.
I game 4 days a week, and only one of those games is off camera. I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. So everything, you need eyeballs to keep your brand relevant, and Magic is bigger than it's ever been, but they're investing to make sure that that doesn't go away. My one minor critique about this is their investment in the judge program and kind of some of the weird things that they've been doing recently. Like, I think it's awesome that they're investing in content and making sure that people can see this, but having the judges be there for tournaments, having this sanctity of rules, I think is also very important. So I'm a little interested in the fact that they're like giving millions of dollars or $8 million away for people making
Million
stuff.
of dollars.
A million.
Million of
They're
dollars.
giving away million of dollars.
A million.
But it doesn't seem like they're putting as much investment into the program for people who are gonna like keep the rules
If
alive.
you look at like WotC as a signal organism
Yeah.
that makes rational decisions
That is-
itself,
Yeah.
then yes, that's very, very weird. I wouldn't be surprised if it's much more of a case of the department that is in charge of judges
Yeah.
doesn't have the money to make that investment.
Yeah.
And that the marketing department, who presumably would be in charge of content,
Right.
does. So, there's always, you do, I think with large organizations, end up with kind of weird expenditures where you're like, if this other department had like a tenth of that money,
Right.
then they would be solving this problem that, whoever's complaining is kind of hip deep in.
Yeah, and I guess it's a lot easier to see the ROI for this. And if they do lean more and more into Arena, the digital platform, which I don't know the breakdown of how much money each one is making, but I can only see Arena growing exponentially. So the content makes a lot of sense, pushing people to Arena. In Arena, you don't need judges, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, they want to grow their audience and make all the money, and it seems like an effective way to do that.
So they don't need people to keep the rules because they have a computer program that literally does that.
Yeah.
At least for Arena.
It's for Arena.
Yeah.
Right, but I mean, it's Magic rules. They've done a really good job, from what I can tell, of making those rules like they're the same rules that you play on the table. So
Yeah,
how long?
exactly.
How long until
Hiring
we have,
people to keep those rules alive is no longer necessary. You just hire a person to write the program to keep the rules alive.
How long until we have our phone where we can just
one dude.
Be like, hey Siri, can you tell me what the stack is here?
Oh
and
my
then
gosh.
it just figures it out.
The app, yeah. Well, because there is.
I thought there's probably.
Well, there is. I
Hey,
mean,
you know,
the
you can
Gather
probably get paid for that from Wizards, from what I was just reading here.
You could probably get-
I don't think
Gather
that's the kind of content they're talking about.
is an
creating.
Oracle. Has the Oracle text for the card. So even if you are, like the Gatherer is the site that has all these things written down. So even if you are a judge, you sometimes might need to refer to this site because it is the Oracle, right? This is the perfect repository of all the data. So all the data is there. The job of a judge is to interpret it in real time.
smoothly.
Yes.
And
exactly.
also, like, I also think that probably 30% of a judge's job is less figuring out the rules because the players could have done that themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And more like mediating and calming
Yes.
excited people.
Yes.
during
Dealing
the
with
tournament.
the players.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
That wasn't allowed. You can't.
Like
double
being a
tap.
bartender
Yeah.
isn't about serving drinks, it's about dealing with drunk people.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I feel like also like taxi drivers at a certain, or Uber drivers or Lyft drivers have to deal with that at a certain point at night.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
the story is, I'm interested to see what happens. You know, this could be anything. It could be comedy shows, humor things. It could be learn to play shows. Like, there's so many options, and I'm interested to see what comes out of it.
I want to see a Pokemon-style live-action web series where it's about a kid who's trying to become the best Magic player in the world.
Oh,
And then they have,
Ash
like, I
Ketchum
choose
style.
you, Chandra,
Steal my
and
idea,
then
I don't care.
Chandra is out there.
that's actually a
in
pretty
full
good idea. I'm just
cosplay.
saying. There you go, chat.
Yeah.
You get those
There you go.
ideas for
That's
free.
for free. Normally I consult for much more
you
money.
don't
Yeah.
want to kind of draft that up and do a pitch for 250?
Yeah, 200.
Nope.
No.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
Nope, I've got way too much on my plate right now.
Okay.
But you're willing to let somebody else do it, and you'll happily just take a 10% of that
Yeah.
250.
No, man, that's a free idea. That's yours.
That's yours?
Look, you can have
I'm
that.
trying to help you out here.
Okay.
Man, if I ever gave a crap about money, I would be in a different business, and I think we all know that.
Yeah.
I give no craps about money. I love games.
Okay. Oh, speaking of that, games, there is very exciting news that WotC's still doing a lot of waves, especially a big splash that happened today that just got announced.
Yeah,
Christian,
well,
you seem very excited.
as we reported back in April, Wizards of the Coast hired somebody to run their new digital game studio. We talked about this very briefly
Yes.
a few months back. Today, they have announced that they are opening said game studio and that they've completely staffed it, and it's going to be super cool. Here is the skinny. It's going to be called Archetype Entertainment, which is going to be led by former BioWare veterans James Olin and Chad Robertson. Chad Robertson is going to be the vice president and general studio manager for the whole project. He was basically your point of contact manager for Anthem when it first came out, so he's used to dealing with a lot of complaints from people for a long period of time. And James Olin, of course, is the mind and lead game designer behind some of the biggest BioWare RPGs ever to come out, including Dragon Age, Knights of the Old Republic, the Old Republic itself, the MMO, and Neverwinter Nights and Baldur's Gate. I mean, all the games that we as D&D fans and gaming fans have enjoyed as video games that we think are good ports of the game. This is the guy who's designing the games there now, which is super cool because, like, that's who I would want on my team if I was doing a big video game. Their first game, though, is not going to be based in Dungeons & Dragons or even in Magic the Gathering. They are creating a completely new tabletop-style sci-fi RPG that's very, very heavily story influenced. The entire idea behind the studio that they're opening is that they are creating story-driven digital games. And I think that, you know, the studio that's just dedicated to that one thing has an opportunity to do that one thing right.
Yeah, I had to laugh real hard because it was like they hired these people from BioWare to make a sci-fi setting with a lot of story where your decisions really matter. I'm like, yep, sure, Mass Effect nailed it. Let's do it again. I am absolutely on board. 100%.
Absolutely, but like I want to see a new Mass Effect with a different flavor to it.
Ooh, that would be nice.
I mean, those are great games. There's not a bad game in that bunch. Oh, Andromeda, never mind.
Andromeda wasn't bad.
No, it just looked bad. It
was
plays
different.
great.
It's-
The story, not very much fun, and the characters all look like plastic people.
So well, there were a lot of technical problems with that, true. But like,
remember.
there's still
Weird
like
faces.
Oh, yeah.
my feeling is that we look back on Mass Effect 1 with rose-colored glasses, because I think that if Mass Effect 1 and Andromeda had come out kind of concurrently, They're very similar. We love one because of what built on it in 2.
Right, but I played 1,
And you
2,
had lower
3 in
expectations
Andromeda,
back
one
then.
right after the other, just so I could say I did it. Andromeda's my least favorite.
I mean,
It has the least
I mean,
the least compelling story.
I have to admit, I still haven't finished Andromeda.
Right.
So
most people haven't.
So this is
It's like, yeah, I'm tired of walking around this ship. I want to go shoot stuff.
this is big news. Like this, Magic is big, Dungeons and Dragons is big, but they're not multi-million-dollar video game big.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're thinking about
Well,
like the
multi-million
biggest,
dollar, yes.
And it looks like
Yeah.
they're calling it a multi-platform role-playing game.
Yeah. So this is on the order of Destiny, World of Warcraft. Like
Yeah.
it seems
Maybe.
like they're shooting in the big leagues with this. Like
Yes.
what they're going for.
Right.
yeah. This it's a very competitive circuit there too.
Yeah.
And these are the kind of video games that I love.
Yeah.
You know, these the choices matter. The action is still good. You know, I like the stories, and that's why I play pretty much any game, even Mario Brothers back in the day, because I wanted to save the princess.
She's in another castle.
As it turns out,
She's in another castle.
man, I wish I would have gotten that spoiler. Hey, guess what? You have to do 8 times.
So, because we were just talking about for the Kickstarters how difficult it can be for a video game to come together. So it's going to be interesting to see, like, can they pull this off?
Well, I mean, I think the difference here is that there is a large studio with money hiring veterans, as
'Cause that's never failed
as
before.
opposed to failing, yes, but like I don't think they've underestimated the work involved.
Yeah. Yeah,
Whereas a lot of
that's right.
Kickstarters, whether or not they involve studio or veterans, tend not to have the financial backing. That's why they're on Kickstarter.
What I'm really hoping for this is that they do have some transparency to it,
Yeah.
or that they don't stealth mode it and kind of hide out for 4 years and just never tell us anything.
And then surprise.
Do you want to put a bet on that?
Oh, if they will do that?
Because I am not going to take the transparency side of that.
No,
They're-
we're dealing with a huge corporation. Absolutely not.
Can I interest you in a friendly wager?
Not like full transparency exactly what they're doing, but like releasing, because what they've done with the mobile game that they're working, like they've had some, because we were talking about other games that they're
Yeah.
releasing as well.
Yeah, like Wizards has definitely increased its interest in video games. Like I
Yes.
think there's also the fact that we just have to admit that with D&D in particular, like the way you're going to make a ton of money off of D&D is not through selling RPG books. Doesn't matter how big Critical Role gets, doesn't matter how many people it
Yeah.
inspires. It's going to make the big boy money
Yeah.
Yes.
off of licensing out to other products, often video games.
Building the brand.
Building the brand.
Yep. So like the RPG is like the pinnacle aspirational tip of the spear brand element.
Yeah.
And then it kind of that love filters down to everything else. But this is how they're going to make the money.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will have to see.
So there you go. Archetype Entertainment.
Yep.
Opening soon.
So we got potential good news and maybe potential passionate news next. Very passionate. People have been very passionate about.
Is this a telenovela now?
Are we doing an erotica segment that I didn't know about? Because
I was going for soap
I'll
opera
go
just to
get my
keep it
handcuffs.
PG-13.
What passion? Passion is PG-13. You can see your
No,
passion.
Christian
Oh.
did it, not you.
did I do?
Oh, yeah, you're right.
What did I do?
Shameful things. I don't know. Everything.
You did the shameful things. So
Shameful
anyway,
things.
Look,
Yes.
pictures don't just go away from the internet, Derek.
This is true, but yes, Christian, you have more news about a certain release that happened earlier last Gen Con.
Oh yeah, hey, you remember last year? Not too long after this time, and everybody was super excited about one thing.
Yep.
Very excited.
I bought the
Cake.
Teflon carbon-coated cover version.
I was
That's right.
very upset that I didn't get that.
We were all incredibly excited last summer and spring about the release of Shadowrun 6th edition. And then it came out, and the book looked beautiful,
Yes.
and everybody got the book, and everybody read the book, and you're like, oh, this looks beautiful. And then everybody tried to play the game, and they're like, hey, wait a minute, something isn't working here. Wait a minute, a bunch of stuff isn't working here. Wait a minute, I hate this now. That's
Accurate.
yeah, that's
That-
kind
that-
of
that is the usual internet art.
Yes.
right. So I was just going through what it goes. There's good news on the horizon, I hope. The new Shadowrun releases are releasing a huge
Huge.
errata that is supposedly fixing a bunch of the things that people didn't like about the game or that weren't working on a technical level.
Well, do we know if it's errata, where it's just fixing things that were misprinted, misrepresented, or not properly edited? Or do we know if it's actually redesigning anything? Because it's unclear.
It is unclear.
It's unclear.
Well,
Like the story is unclear
It's
about it.
unclear.
That's why I said hopefully.
Yeah, well, it's unclear how much a lot of the fans are going to want, because people seem very divided. Like
Yes.
I still really kind of want to give it that old college try, just to see how it would work out. And I mean, now we have the errata at least.
Yeah,
but
some of this is very egregious, though. The book was literally printed with filler text such as argle bargle, foofara, hey diddy, ho diddy. I mean, that's just
I feel like that should
offensive.
be canon now.
I feel like they should get more standard filler text that's easier to search for.
No, they should have spent
Argle
more money in
bargle.
their editing department. Simple as that. And
Or
they
their
didn't.
writing department, right? Like just the people who put the text in there. It's just like, oh, insert text here. You know, just the.
Well, I mean,
Right,
How
but
many
that,
eyes
that
does
has
it-
to get caught in editing.
Yeah,
Like the
yeah.
writer is allowed to mess around a little bit and add stuff as long as the editor is smart enough to catch it and take it out.
Yeah, or like proofreaders or beta readers.
That-
or something.
that-
Don't they have any
editors.
of those things?
That's
Yeah,
what they're
like,
doing.
I mean,
They're there before everybody.
I suspect what happened is that the development probably took longer than anticipated, and they just didn't have enough time to get things together in time for a proper
Release.
editing and production before releasing at Gen Con. And
Yeah.
they weren't willing to push that release date back.
Right, and then they were cocky and they said, I'm sure it's fine. How bad could it possibly be?
At least they're.
Ta-da! That's what we got, 6th edition. And,
Yeah.
luckily there are 5 more incredibly playable editions of that game that are out that you can play. It's not the best version of the system, but it was never the best system to begin with.
Yeah.
Although it is, I mean, this is an issue with physical printed book products, right? If this had been a digital product, it would have been easy enough to fix.
Well, so that's the interesting note to my mind with to compare like another errata heavy game,
Yes.
or FAQ heavy game of Warhammer 40K. Like there's kind of a traditional cycle you get into as a Warhammer fan of the main book comes out, a bunch of codexes come out, whichever faction had the codex most recently is probably the strongest, and they have a 2-week window ish where you don't really know how any of the rulings of the rules are going to go, because the book comes out 2 weeks, I think, later is when the errata and the FAQ comes out, where they're like, okay, this is what we actually meant, and these words are missing that are going to be really key important during your tournaments.
Yes.
So there's a little bit of a Wild West there sometimes, and I would dearly love a D&D Beyond for 40K, where
Yeah.
you buy the codex and then it's updated, and you just, like...
That's it.
So, if you were interested in this errata, if you've already purchased the PDF for Shadowrun, it's going to be included for free. They're
I
just
got- I got my email
they're just gonna-
notification
they're
about
just going to
this
send
already.
it to
Well,
you.
that's nice.
There you
That's
go.
nice.
It's just a copy of the book with all the stuff in it fixed. You're welcome. If you have a printed copy of the book, you are having the exact same problem that Derek was just talking about. So you might be SOL there.
Well, that's also how I justify buying the stupid edition, because, hey, I didn't really buy it for the content, because I'm going to read the PDF anyway. I bought it for the stupid carbon fiber cover.
Right.
It was
Which
very
is
nice.
stupid. But it looked great.
It really looked really
stupidly
good.
great.
But yeah. So, I mean, at least they're trying to put in some of good faith back into the community, and that's all
I think it's important that they're even making the very basic effort
Yeah.
of just like fixing what was wrong with the game to begin with.
Yes.
I mean, that's nice.
Yes.
But do they care?
I guess we'll find out.
We'll find out.
We'll see
find
when it comes out. So
Yes.
until it does, I'm keeping my opinion to myself because I don't have one yet.
Yes. All right. Well, I think,
Speaking of opinions
yes.
that we can't have yet because they're not out yet, but we're going to have
Oh, I love
anyway.
those.
We're going to have all of those ready for us to get excited again and hopefully not have our dreams crash and burn.
And make lots of stuff up.
I don't know. This isn't my job. My dream's just fine. Thanks.
The patron saint of happiness, Derek here.
Look at that joy.
Look at that joy right there.
Oh, you're smiling just like you people do.
Yeah, you.
Wow, that was quite a turnaround of an emotional roller coaster I've had today, going from crushing all the dreams to the patron saint of happiness. Or wait, am I just the
think it was
patron saint of happiness in the Warhammer 40K universe, where I'm just doing a real bad job?
In which case, you will be doomed and no one will ever see you.
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
So we have a list, I believe from EN World, of the top most anticipated RPGs that are supposed to come out in 2020. So we are now, like giddy children, going to speculate, get extremely excited about something that probably will be very different
Something
from
that
what
will
we're
disappoint us
anticipating.
in August, almost certainly.
No,
Or just
no.
never exist.
You just gotta believe.
Yeah.
Some of these are on like my perpetual list of games that I love that I would love to see a new edition of.
Yeah.
So just to kind of run down the list, we have Cortex Prime.
Yes.
Now, if everybody remembers, Cortex Prime was on Kickstarter not too long ago, and it's the system that was used in the most recent Marvel heroic role-playing
Put
game.
out by Margaret Weiss Productions.
Yes.
And a bunch of other games.
Yep,
the
a bunch of
Tons of
other
games. The first Demon Hunters game that we did was on that Cortex Prime system.
I think Firefly.
Supernatural,
Yeah.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer, a lot of those early licensed games were all on that Cortex system.
Okay.
So that was the system where, like, you would have all these different kind of skills and aspects that would be different die sizes, and then you would kind of put them together.
Very Savage Worldsy in a lot of ways.
Yep. So it was very popular. Cortex Prime is supposed to be like a modern update version of that to kind of make it generic and open. And if I remember correctly, the structure of like the license and whatnot will make it easy for anybody who wants to make a game using it to do so. And also Fandom, who is the company that recently bought D&D Beyond.
And also the mind behind ruining Star Wars.
Sweet. No, that I think is a lowercase Fandom.
Oh, lowercase
This
Fandom,
is
sorry.
uppercase Fandom.
Right.
Ah. Okay.
So they have D&D Beyond, and I think there's been some talk about them releasing a similar tool for Cortex Prime, or at least I hope they do. The more digital tools we can get that are good for tabletop games, the better.
Accessibility
Okay.
is always good, as our friend Hawk Robinson would say.
Accessibility. Yes.
But the next game on the list, any of you recognize Fading Suns?
No.
No.
Oh yeah, Christian's right there.
I
With
don't know
me.
what you're talking about.
Yep, Christian
We've
knows.
talked about it on the show before, in fact.
So Fading Suns is one of my personal favorite settings because it's basically Warhammer and Dune with all of like some of the weirdness shaved off and kind of smushed together into medieval Europe in space and packaged in a way that you can actually play as a role-playing game.
And then everyone's miserable all the time.
Yeah.
No. It's less of the grim darkness
Okay.
and more of like the weird religionness.
Sand,
Both Dune
like
and
sand is-
Warhammer are very sad.
That's true. There's a little bit of sad here.
There's
but
literally a Messiah in Dune, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
you're not going to get
he's-
anything like that in
he's
Warhammer.
not. That's the thing.
Spoilers.
Did you not read Dune Messiah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read it.
Anyway, so this is, I think, a much more tabletop gamey design. So, like, if you think of those settings, like Warhammer 40K is designed as a war game first. So
Yeah.
the factions don't really make a whole lot of like real world sense.
Really?
They make really colorful sense to put on the table.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And if you look at Dune is written like it's a novel first. It's very dense. It likes to meander and explore things.
Yes, it does.
So when David Lynch makes a movie, I love it, but it's not a good movie. You know what I mean?
No.
So like I think, if you think about some of the things that made those things great, but then
Yeah.
come at it from a point of view of an RPG, then I think you kind of get a sense of what Fading Suns is like. Because it has a lot of the same like far future technology people don't really get. The church really controls who's allowed to know anything or read. But you also have like all these noble houses. So it was one of those games, it was also coming out in like the White Wolf era. So it was like, here are 15 splats, pick the one that you want. There were 5 noble houses. There, of course, was like the Scorpion Betrayer house that I loved.
Of course.
And then there were like,
Is there also like a group of houseless?
yes.
Yeah, of course there
Yes.
is.
Yep.
Yep.
Of course
There was the
is.
5 noble houses. There were 5 major orders of the church. There were 5 guilds who all had like an exclusive right to a certain technology.
And there were 5 people who played the game.
Yep.
Anyway, I love it, and I'm excited for it to come back. And apparently, enough other people on the internet are too.
There's definitely some buzz there.
Yes. Ooh, now the next one I'm excited about.
You
I'm
take
so
away.
glad somebody's excited about this.
What? Stargate? Yeah, Stargate role-playing game is
Everything
coming out.
old is new
Wyvern Games. It's going to be a Stargate role-playing game. I will tell you, though, I love Stargate, love all that stuff, but I feel like this should have came out way before now.
Well, there was a Stargate
Yeah.
RPG. That's
Oh, yeah. This is not the
Oh.
first one, which is why I'm not super excited about it.
Oh, okay. I must have missed a memo on that one.
So the idea behind the Stargate role-playing game is that you play an Earthman who happens to be in the army or whatever, and you go and you become one of the SDF guys that goes into
Or
the Stargate.
Earthwoman.
I was using the wrong term there. I do apologize.
You were a meat sack.
Earthman,
You're meat sack. Earth meat sack.
Earth meat.
You're a human.
Human. Yes. But no, I'm.
And you go through the portals, right?
Yeah.
That's
Right.
all I remember about that.
There
is
you
I
go.
don't remember
And you go
the
to other
stuff.
worlds that have, I guess just other people, but some of them wear funny hats.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or have coins on
But
their
they're
head.
still people.
Right.
There's still people.
They're all
You
people.
know what other setting had giant portals? Fading Suns.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wow. Okay.
You know what
you're
else
just
is
like,
giant
hey,
portals?
Wait.
Rifts.
And then sometimes
Those
the
are
portals,
rifts, sir. Those are
The
rifts.
Those
They're-
aren't portals. Those
the
are
rifts.
flashes.
The rifts are actually any opening is called a portal. There you go.
Wait, no.
Little trivia.
Portals are not just circles to another world. No.
Not just
They're
circles.
usually
No.
circular.
They're usually circular.
They're usually circular.
Yeah.
Though.
Anyway,
Any
Fading
door
Suns
is
is
a
giant
portal.
space portals. So,
Just like that.
so is there
by
a
definition.
new Stargate movie or show in the works?
I
think
think there is
so.
not.
I
Is
thought
there?
there-
I mean,
thought there
I've
was.
heard rumors.
why, guys? We did like 400 episodes of that show.
Wait, did you really ask why we're going to make a new version of a thing that was reasonably popular and then was canceled?
Did you not see that Ninja Turtles are coming
First of all,
back?
really
Just
popular.
at literally everything.
It was on Sci-Fi Channel for all of those
Hey,
years.
I said
I saw
reasonably
it.
popular.
Reasonably popular.
So, but what I'm curious about is why the impetus to release the Stargate RPG this year, if there's not a thing to tie in with it.
Well, because finally all of those people learned to read.
Harsh.
Yes.
But but if there's not a media tie-in, then that suggests that the people who are putting out the license are doing it because they're obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Which
no,
which could be good or bad.
Stargate fandom is huge. I mean,
Yeah.
it's got people love it for no reason at all over the world.
I like portals.
Yeah. Don't you just go through the portal? The portal always breaks,
if
right?
you like
and then you have
portals,
to fix
And then
the
you have to
portal.
fix it before you come back.
And then you come back. That's the whole thing, right?
Also saving the civilization that you went there to save.
And
Oh,
Egypt.
okay.
Lots of Egypts.
And
Yeah.
then putting them under U.S. government supervision.
Okay.
It's
The government just.
Yeah, there's a lot of weirdness there.
Yeah.
So the next game is Rivers of London. So this was announced by Chaosium very recently relative to a lot of these other products. So it's very interesting to see it already have the recognition, probably because of the novels, I believe, that it's licensed from.
People are just really into London.
Yeah.
And
Popular city.
there's also like a little
In
bit
a
of like
certain time.
Lovecrafty horror there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which I think usually helps.
this is one of the most anticipated.
Oh, this one? Yeah. Oh.
I remember we had covered the announcement of Rivers of London
Oh,
just a couple months ago.
Yeah, I remember now.
that one.
So to
now.
see it already up here is interesting.
It's very
I'm glad
interesting.
people are looking forward to it. I hope it's as fun as it sounds.
I like the gumshoe system, so.
Well, no,
I've done
Rivers.
nothing with it, so
we
I-
haven't gotten to the Gumshoe system yet. That's the next one.
Oh shoot! Sorry.
Rivers
wrong
of
one.
London is Chaosium, so that's BRP.
Oh, that's the wrong one. All right.
It's what?
BRP, the
PRP.
basic role-playing system.
All right.
It's the
I
same
read
thing
it.
they use for Call of Cthulhu and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Okay.
So then the next one, speaking of Gumshoe, is Swords of the Serpentine. So this is one where I know the designer on Twitter, and he has been providing a lot of insight into his design process.
Yeah, I like that they made serpentine into a noun. Like, good on you for that, guys.
So this is basically taking the Gumshoe system and doing sword and sandals fantasy with it.
Yes.
You would have loved this. You ready? Do you want to guess what the playtest in production code name of it was? It's the Gumshoe system. It was Gumthoos. Isn't like the thu? No, nobody really.
Muscles, right?
Yeah.
Thews, yeah.
Oh, that's muscles.
Yeah.
It's a pretty deep cut.
Anyway.
Just like my gum thews.
Gum thews. It's funny. It's punny. I like it.
See?
I like it. I'm
See?
into it.
Good. All right. The light side approves. The dark side is grumpy.
Yeah.
So anyway,
The dark side is always grumpy.
It's also
true.
reflected on stream that we're the dark side and you're the light side. If you notice that.
sweet. Anyway, if you like Gumshoe or if you really like kind of Conan
Yes.
style stories,
Yeah.
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
going to be perfect.
But Conan as a private eye?
I don't think that they're necessarily going to.
I don't think you have to be a private detective.
So they
Well, it's
don't.
investigative.
I
so
think-
you're
they
solving
only-
mysteries.
No, I don't think you're solving mysteries. I think
Okay.
the investigation you might be doing is how do we break into the Temple of Set to steal the eye?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
what I
it is
mean?
kind of, yeah.
I
The
just-
adventure.
Sure.
Yeah.
My mind went to Conan.
How do I stick my sword into this person so that they die?
Oh,
Hard.
use the pointy end.
Yep.
Pointy end.
that. Like where
yes.
is that?
So,
Yes.
on the continuing topic of Warhammer,
Yes.
Warhammer Age of Sigmar
Sigmar.
RPG should be coming out this year
Mushroom
from Cubicle
people.
7.
They have mushrooms that grow out of them.
This is
mean the
Sigmar
orcs?
is Happy Warhammer, where it's only kind of miserable, right?
No, it's Fantasy Warhammer.
It's fantasy, yeah.
Yeah.
That's happy.
It's over-the-top Fantasy Warhammer, except the world has been destroyed and fractured into tiny, horrible realms.
Each one more horrible than the last.
All
Basically.
the horrors.
But I think part of why people are really excited is Cubicle 7, they're the folks who did the Lord of the Rings RPG, the One Ring.
Yeah.
They've just been doing really, really pretty versions of products.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I think people are excited because they're expecting this to be a really, really well done,
Well
gorgeous
produced.
game.
Yeah.
Oh, it's probably going to be beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
What about Fallout?
Fallout.
What about Fallout?
What about Fallout?
I feel like we talked a lot about Fallout.
Yeah, we've talked about it 2 times on the show now. Modifius has been putting out as part of that 2D20 system that
Yep.
they're doing. That they've got Stargates under the same system, I think.
Yep.
I love Fallout. I always have, since the very first one. I've been a big fan. I've got the Pip-Boy edition of Fallout 4, so I can have my own
Oh, yeah,
Pip-Boy.
yeah.
I'm a huge Fallout nerd. That being said, I don't know how excited I am about this because anytime I play a game that's modern or post-apocalyptic or set, after the bomb or whatever, it's already Fallout.
Yeah.
I don't know if I need the Vault-Tec stuff and the flavor
But
that
what
goes
about
on there.
Nuka-Cola?
And Nuka, that's what I'm talking about. Like, I love that stuff and I love that flavor in the games. I don't know if I need.
It's interesting because to me,
in book
think
form.
I think that aesthetic is what keeps me out of Fallout.
Is that the whole 1950s retro
Yeah.
aesthetic?
Yeah.
Because
It's very divisive.
Yeah, that's just one of the things. I get it. They do a fantastic job of implementing.
And
it.
the
It's just not
soundtrack
for
and
me.
the soundtracks are always so good.
We could play it like I had played Fallout 2, which I love, but there's just so much that you never know what's going on. You just drive your car. I'm going to go north for a while, and then you go north forever, and you die, and the game is over. So this is what I'm imagining this role-playing game.
That's
You
what
go
I did.
north, it's desert. It's desert. There's a mutant with a machine gun. You're dead. That's this game.
That's pretty close. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
right?
super mutant with a machine
Super
gun, but
mutant
yeah,
with a machine gun,
absolutely.
Yeah.
You need to just find the robots or the really, really burn
The
radio.
power armor.
Yeah, I think this is going to be great for Fallout fans.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to buy it, despite the fact that I'm a huge Fallout fan.
Well, I wonder if this coming out will help spur other post-apocalyptic RPGs too. You know what I mean?
I
Yeah.
think there's a good amount, though.
The problem is they just
Popular
try and
ones right
stick.
now, though?
They try and stick the post-apocalyptic thing on so many other genres that's what ruins it.
Sure.
It's post-apocalyptic D&D, or it's post-apocalyptic cyberpunk, or it's post-apocalyptic, pirates.
It's like a
Don't you talk about my dark side that way?
I am specifically calling out Dark Sun right now.
Oh.
So we haven't really seen a fresh take. I think
No.
on post-apocalyptic, right?
Yeah.
Fallout's also not going to present a fresh.
Well, yeah, but
You know
that's
why?
where-
Because The Postman would be a boring game.
I love that book.
It was a good
I like the
one.
I
movie.
like the movie.
I was like, it's a good movie.
And
my
it's not a
gosh.
great movie. I
What
just,
do you mean?
I mean,
liked it.
Yeah.
objectively,
Yes.
uh,
but I also like Waterworld and stuff.
it was.
Oh, I also
So,
like
so
Waterworld.
I love Waterworld. It's not good.
It's not good. That's the thing. I love it.
We have
It's
to
not good.
recognize love and quality as two separate things. So we're gonna let Fallout hang out there.
Yeah.
We're gonna
Yeah,
move
I-
on to Cyberpunk Red
I want to look at the art and then
for Fallout.
yeah.
Yeah.
I want to see it, and if it gets in front of my face and it's shiny and pops, I'll absolutely buy it. But the thought of it doesn't excite me.
I mean, I think Cyberpunk Red should be at the top of this list just for hype.
Sure.
Like with
Yes.
how excited people are with the video game.
Well, they had the
with
preview. They had the preview box at Gen Con.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
sold out like an hour
Yeah.
each morning.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like even I had to send a minion to go get it for me because
My
like it was going to be sold
minions.
out by the time I got there.
Yeah. So this, and have you had a chance to take a look at it yet? Or you?
Only briefly.
Okay.
And I would say that it feels very old school in the sense that like old Cyberpunk. It named
Which is a cool system.
It named
Yes.
its subsystems. So like it had Friday Night Firefight was like the combat subsystem.
All right.
So like this was of an era where you named your subsystems.
Okay, yeah.
They
Okay.
have named the new fighting subsystem Thursday Night Throwdown. So I think that like there's very much an awareness of what has come before, and so
Okay.
I'm curious because it will very much stand out. I think in our current design environment,
Yeah.
landscape.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll just have to
I'm
see.
real curious.
I love Cyberpunk. I'll buy it anyway, just
Yep.
because it's the newest version of Cyberpunk. Plus, it's taking us all the way to 2077, which is where the next game is going to be set.
Yes.
And I'm excited to see what that looks like compared to the earlier stuff of which I have paperback copies of all of it. So.
Yep. Shadowrun was always my Cyberpunk game, but I'm still real
Mine
excited
too,
about this.
but when you want to get rid of the extra fluff, Cyberpunk it's basic. It's got that feel. It's just the one genre. Plus nomads.
Yes. Next one, Basin. By the way, I'm excited because this Free League has a really good record of making very thematic role-playing games that suck you in.
Yep. So we talked about this on Kickstarter.
Yes.
We did, and this is they said it's a Nordic horror role playing game. Is that like The Witcher?
No.
Super horror.
It's like
Exis-
just imagine that you
existentialist.
live in a frozen tundra where there's a lot of trees and there's a lot of darkness.
A lot of darkness,
That's
like
so
nights
also
that
you're
last
just
for
you're
months.
just describing
just
Norway,
describing Norway.
not Nordic horror per se.
Wait,
So
well, no, this is the framing.
Yeah.
Of
So
it.
That's
to-
framing.
Also, like Alaska.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay.
think of it like this. I think the pitch of the game is that you know how you would play like say the Inquisition or like a league defending humanity from the darkness.
Yes.
You're monster hunters
Okay.
in Scandinavia.
Okay. So like that movie Troll Hunter.
Yes. Oh yeah,
Which was
Troll
set in
Hunter.
Scandinavia.
That's a good movie, by the way, Troll Hunter.
Does that kind of fit the
Yes.
genre that we're talking about
I haven't
here?
watched Troll Hunter, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
But like this genre seems very Victorian, monster huntery, protect humanity from the darkness kind of element.
Okay.
But pulling specifically from Scandinavian folklore, as opposed to kind of general.
So like we could all just
Western
be mauled by
European.
Nissums.
Yeah.
Sure.
Manissa, yeah. The bleak, I think, is a good way to do it. Just like stark and bleak.
Bleak,
Dark.
my favorite kind of game.
Yes, bleak.
Yes.
So the last game on this anticipated list is Dune. As we come back full circle to talk about more Dune. So Dune has had RPGs before.
Yes.
I have the Dune RPG. It's not bad, the last Unicorn one. There's a lot of interesting stuff there. You basically, it reminds me a lot of the Song of Ice and Fire RPG from Green Runner right now, where you basically kind of form your own noble house and whatnot. So it'll be real interesting to see how this comes out, because this is coming from Modiphius.
Which is going to be that same 2D20
Yep.
system that is on two of the other games on this list.
So I'm real curious how that's going to work out, because the movie's coming out this year. I don't know how long this RPG's been in production, but I don't know. It's always one of those things too. Are they going to use shots from the movie? Are they going to use their own art? Is it going to come out at Gen Con? But the movie's not going to be out until December, I think.
Yeah.
I'm very curious.
I wonder if they're just going to have a huge sandbox that you have to go into their booth with. Just a huge sandbox.
I'm going to tell them that if that is their plan, they should consult the exhibit hall manager now to let them know.
And they can have little mechanized worms that go through
Yeah.
and poke their heads up. How cute
This
would that be?
No, just use attendees.
Someone cosplaying as a worm.
Just
So
licking
those
it.
are our
Yes.
anticipated RPGs.
Yes.
Yay.
Yeah.
so-
And that is all of the news that we had today. But guess what? It's time for bundles.
Favorite segue of the day, still. I just love it. All right, bundles. This week, the bundle of holding has a set called Beasts and Barbarians, a 1930s-style pulp fantasy played with the Savage Worlds rules.
I hear you like Savage Worlds.
I love Savage Worlds. It's maybe my favorite game system. That is
It's
not.
not
That is.
Rifts.
Wait,
That is not a secret.
Riffs has a Savage Worlds version, so he's covered.
So
Okay.
I'm covered, yeah. In
Okay.
fact, Savage Riffs, good stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, for $12.95, you get it comes with a couple of the supplement books to it, Beast and Barbarian Steel Edition, and the Game Master's Guide for that same thing, which is more of a sword and sandal setting for that same Savage Worlds, which is pretty cool. Also comes with a figure flats and print and fold character stand-ups and a Game Master screen. That's pretty cool.
It is.
For the $25 mark, you can get the 3 location source books and the City of Thieves and Tricarnia, Land of Princes and Demons, along with 3 character supplements and, a whole
big
bunch of
adventure.
extra stuff. Adventures, always with the adventures. This supports the Ocean Conservancy.
Yes.
Which is a charity that is worthwhile because they help the ocean.
We need that.
I love your segments where you decide whether the charity is worthwhile or not.
Yeah. No, that is a huge part of my bundles. Rancho Obi-Wan, I am looking at you.
I feel like we need to get a little graphic of like charity is Christian approved.
Christian approved charities. Someone
Although,
should
can we
just-
not call it a Christian approved charity because that's going to get people the wrong.
Oh.
It's like, hey, everybody, who wants some Chick-fil-A?
Let's just lean into it.
All right, yay oceans.
Yay, ocean.
So yeah, hey, save the oceans, buy some games.
Buy some games. And also now, hear ye, the queen of Kickstarter is here.
The
All right, so
lady.
now that court has been called to order, I'm going to delegate to my first knight.
Ah,
Aw, I want to
I'm-
be the first.
I knew she
Nom.
was the
Well,
first
then
night.
you
I
should
knew
have
it.
you should have picked the project that ended sooner.
yeah.
Oh.
Well,
First night, can you
first
tell
night.
us about Last Fleet?
Okay,
Hashtag Last
with-
Fleet.
First
Hashtag
night, last fleet, go.
Go.
Oh, gosh.
Okay. With hours left, literally just hours left. Last Fleet RPG. Basically, do you want to go ahead and play an action, intrigue, and drama space game where you're the last of humanities? Very similar to kind of this other show that's has.
Yeah, so it's Battlestar Galactica powered by the apocalypse.
There
Okay,
you go.
Yeah, there you go. It's darn it. Yes, but if you ever wanted to play Battlestar Galactica, but instead of Cylons, you have to fight extra dimensional fungus called Krax. Korax.
Fungus? Really?
Yeah, they're
Is
fat,
that what
yeah.
we've come to?
Careful, cracks kills.
Is that what we've come to, Miss? I can't wait for Warhammer Age of Sigmar because they have mushroom
They have,
people.
their mushrooms are cute. A fungus is just a pile
Fungus
of. Does it have
is
a
mushroom
face?
is
A mushroom is a fungus.
They're fungus.
A portal is a door. Come on.
Oh
Anyway.
my gosh.
For some
But
reason, I
yes.
was just thinking of like a fungus cloud.
No, no, you think of Spore Cloud.
Spore cloud.
That's
Okay.
spore-
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
No, I can't.
Never mind. Does this one have a cute face on it?
We don't know yet.
Okay.
We're not too sure. But
Holding judgment.
So pretty much all like it has about support. You can do it to support your own settings and your own space settings in this game. It also includes some pre-gens and. The 12 playbooks are basically based off of star signs. Yes.
Star signs like astrological signs?
Oh, geez, yeah.
Yeah,
that
that
word.
adds an element of realism I had not expected.
Ah,
Yep. Yeah, there's a Leo playbook, a
Yeah.
Sagittarius playbook.
The Pisces fleet is just too sad to fight today.
but yes, the cool thing that I liked of it, because it is a power by the apocalypse type of role-playing game, is there is a stress mechanic to this game because you have the weight of the rest of your species, the human species,
that's fair.
leaning on you every day as supplies dwindle.
So I have to say, if I were to run this, I would 100% lean into the star signs. And for each session, I would probably take like some star sign prediction for what those players are supposed to do. And then, yeah, you'd have to lean into that to make the star signs work.
You are
I
a
think.
Leo. Charge head first. Don't look where you're going.
Well,
It'll
well,
turn out
yeah.
fine.
Exactly.
Definitely don't think it through, Leo.
Yeah.
No.
That's just not your style.
I love it.
It speaks to me so strongly.
Yeah. It's shiny. I want it.
But yeah, that has
Avoid potholes.
So it's just a fun, exciting Battlestar Galactica-esque RPG game. So if you want to go ahead and play a dwindling race of humanity while lost in space and trying to find a new home, Last Fleet RPG is for you with hours left on Kickstarter.
Night number 2, with hours left, what do you
Second
bring
night.
to the court?
Just go ahead and throw your wallet in the trash now because you're gonna buy this.
Get your credit card out first.
Get your
Don't
credit
throw
card
away your
out.
credit card.
All your money's going because this is the Adventures Tarot. It has just
It's
something for
gorgeous,
everyone. Yeah,
gorgeous.
It's gorgeous,
Very pretty.
beautiful art. It's tarot, but not tarot. So if you like tarot, you're gonna like it. It's like, oh, it's kind of like tarot. If you're not
Yep.
into tarot, you're not gonna be turned off about
The
it.
art,
'cause
the
it's not
art
tarot.
style is tarot.
Yes.
But like the contents are there's 2 cards for every class.
Yes.
And then a bunch of different monsters. So
Yeah.
you end up with like a very D&D tarot.
Yeah. So it's like the one of the adversaries or something. And what's cool about it, so you can use this for initiative and different, like we were talking before the show about using tarot cards for inspiration in role-playing games.
Yep,
so it's
for, like, your
perfect
character
for that.
background or something.
Yeah. But it also comes with its own cardomancy book, which is fortune telling through cards, in case you didn't know. So you can learn a new tarot-esque system and tell people's fortunes, or even just investigate your own psyche with these amazing, gorgeous cards. And
the initiative mechanic I thought was neat, where it's just like, you take one card for each player, just shuffle them with the enemies, and go.
And then reshuffle them, so the initiative changes from round to round, which is very different.
But also, like,
Savage Worlds does that already.
Yeah, but if somebody
that is
has like improved initiative or something like that, you put 2 cards in for them. Like, it's just neat and cute, and like the art is really, really nice and stylistic. I think there's printed gold, gold leaf,
foil
something like that
around the edges of it. Yes, it's
very,
beautiful.
very pretty.
And it's $20 too, which is definitely very reasonable for this sort of a thing. And a subtle thing that I didn't notice that wasn't pulled to the forefront, but once I looked at all the pictures, I'm like, these are all just badass ladies.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's kind of like, you look through it, you're like, oh, these are cool people, and you're like, wait, they're women.
Yeah.
And there's like a cool barbarian lady and like a sexy warlock lady.
At first, I thought it was.
Oh, I love sexy warlock lady.
Yeah.
At first, I thought it was a male and female for every class, and then I looked closer and I'm like, oh, it's not.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, hello, only ladies.
Right. It just, because they're all like amazing, gorgeous, interesting, diverse art on these characters.
Yep. We really recommend that you just
Look at
click
it.
on the
Just
link
click on
and
it.
prepare to
Just
buy.
hit buy.
Yeah.
And it's, and you'll want to do that. It's only got hours left, so definitely tune into that now because you don't have much time left.
See, now as the second night, you get to
I get 2
go
in a row.
third.
Okay, does that make me the third night too?
Sure, yep.
Sweet, second and third.
Guys, I'm moving further and further down the list, and my feelings don't exist. So
My
whatever.
notes here indicate that you are the bundle boss now tonight. Sorry.
You give me like maybe a page or a squire. That's nice too, right? Get me my sword.
He's a page of wait. So now we need to do
I
a
can
table
bring it
takes
to you,
tarot
knight,
deck.
but
Ready?
how will you lift it?
A table takes tarot deck. The suits are bundles, Kickstarters, headlines, topics.
We're gonna
Anyway,
make a tarot deck.
I'll keep workshopping that.
Okay.
I love it. I will buy it. I will
Anyway, go ahead.
shut up and take my money. Next on the list is Zen Garden and Way to Go, which is 2 games. This Kickstarter is interesting because Queen Games is doing a thing that's new. I haven't really seen it before.
A number of their releases they've done through Kickstarter like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is the Queen Games, which is a publisher, spring releases. So instead of making an individual campaign for each of their games, they're like, hey, these are the games we have. If you want them, you can get them individually or together.
Here's how you can fund our studio for the whole quarter.
Yeah. It's nice. If you like them as a publisher, they probably have a lot of similar games. So you can just get them at one time in one place. The Zen Garden game is you're making cool circular patterns with the sand and rocks and grass and lots of natural materials and trying to appease the emperor's wishes. Seems like a fun, light tile placing game. And Way to Go is along the lines of something like Team 3 that recently came out where you're trying to have limited communication party game, I guess I'll say. Yeah.
So that's a category that I appreciate.
Yeah. So this one's very complicated. I don't actually know how easy it will be to play because as the person with the card, you have a dry erase marker and you're blindfolded and you're trying to trace this maze. And each person has a different communication style. Like some people can't talk, so they have to tap the person next to them to communicate for them. It looks pretty...
So it's a co-op game.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
interesting.
Co-op or team versus team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're trying to trace the maze while other people tell you probably not like go right or turn now, but they have only very limited ways that they can tell you how to make the picture. And then you take the blindfold off and it's a mess and it's fun.
I can't do things. Do I win?
You won my heart.
Always.
All right, so this one is 2 teams of 1 to 7 players, 2 to 14 people. There's 3 days left, and yeah, check it out if you want some fun, lighter games to play with
Great.
people.
Yes.
Back to night number 1.
Yes.
Why don't we return to night number 1?
Returning to night number 1. You went from happiness, now welcome to darkness. Return to Dark Tower. It has about 4 days left. This game was not done by the same people that did this in the 80s. The first version of this game is an 80s game where basically Orson Welles tells you about this dark looming
I remember that
tower.
commercial.
Are you posting the
absolutely
link
have
to
to see
the
that
trailer?
commercial.
Yeah.
Because the
Yeah.
commercial, it is amazing.
Yeah.
Watch,
So
watch that.
it is probably worth noting that this is not the Dark Tower
It is not.
novel.
It is.
No.
No.
Not anything.
Not connected
I
at all.
keep forgetting that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not
If
connected
it was,
at all.
I would have bought the game already.
That's what I thought.
Yes. But this is a 1 to 4 player hero game where basically You are heroes trying to fight a malevolent, evil tower. And there is this, I would say that this game does look like if the old version, Dark Towers 1, this is like 2.0 version for modern times. You do have this like Bluetooth connected tower that basically triggers.
There's this huge
lights.
obelisk in the
There's an
middle.
Occupy
Obelisk.
encampment right at the base of the tower.
But yes, it has lights, booble sounds, skulls come out, all that kind of stuff. And also it is heavily integrated with the app that it comes with. So the tower does act as a semi-sentient AI that wrecks your
Wow,
life.
I love the idea that it's semi-sentient AI, and you might have to like put down Terminator every time you play this game.
Yeah.
No, Skynet, no, you're going back in the box.
So this one is by Restoration Games, which we talked about a lot. So of course it's going to be pretty close to the source material. You know, Restoration Games doesn't typically go too far. When they did Fireball Island, really spoke to it. But just the level, what's really cool about it, they have the tower, but they've done incredible feats of engineering to make it this, like you'll see in the trailer. The original one is lights up and it's a picture of a dragon, but this one, there's rotations, there's little compartments, and there's the app, and it makes scenarios for you. So they're
And
putting
you can
some
flip it upside
heavy
down
tech.
and make ice cream.
Little known fact.
Little known fact, don't actually do that. We cannot confirm that
Do
you
it.
can make ice cream.
No, do it.
Christian dares you.
No,
There's you.
I'm telling you, that's how it works.
But yes, so basically you're trying to fight this looming darkness on the land, and it offers a lot of streamlined rules and everything, pretty simple to pick up, and it just looks
You
like
can
a
control the tower via Bluetooth, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like this
Especially if you're not playing the game with the people who are playing it, you're just in the corner of the room being like,
this is
Spits out
definitely
skulls.
this is definitely one of those things I think you don't quite get it until you see it in action.
Yes.
And it really does feel like an old school board game
It does.
that has like this ridiculous gimmick now executed in kind of a modern aesthetic.
But
Hey, I love board games with ridiculous gimmick aesthetics. That pie face game is hilarious.
yeah.
Well, this
Hungry Hippos will never go out of style.
is definitely speaking to the fans. It's made literally infinity dollars. So if you want to be part of that infinity, then
Keep in mind though, this game is our most expensive Kickstarter today, because it is the lower tier is about $100, but for that price, it is a very high quality
We hope.
game. Like it looks like a high
Restaurate,
quality.
like it's going to be like I don't know if it's going to be for everyone, but it's definitely going to be a well executed product.
Yes.
Well, they've got a great track record.
Yeah. So 4 days left. Return to Dark Tower.
So, in what I think might be the cute Kickstarter of the week, Emma, I don't know if you have examined this in detail.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Is Oath. This is from the folks who did Root. Remember the art style from Root?
right, yeah.
Yep. This is very similar, so it's probably honorary cutest Kickstarter of the week.
And didn't Root win a bunch of awards?
It did.
Yeah.
It did.
It did.
So
I didn't look too closely at this one because the name did not scream cuteness to me, and so I overlooked that a little bit.
It flew under your radar.
It did fly under my radar.
that's why I brought it up.
That's good.
But Root won a bunch of awards. It's a
Yeah.
fantastic game. This is the new game from Letter Games. And it's designed by Chris Worley, who I don't think is their usual designer. But this is they're not calling it a legacy game, but all of the features it has seem to lean into that element. Like,
Legacy adjacent.
yeah, like it seems like I think they may have avoided the term legacy because they don't want you to think that you're going to be cracking secret boxes and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
But it does seem like the intent is you kind of play this strategy game to control the kingdom, and the decisions you make in one game will affect the states in later games.
I think we need a new terminology for this.
Or we just need to be comfortable with legacy meaning more than one
No,
thing.
that's terrible. We need
Oh,
new
boy.
words for
New
all the things that we
words.
love, so we can distinguish it from the things that we hate.
What if
Right,
we
just
what if
tearing
we
things
all
up.
just admit that we were never tearing up the cards in legacy games anyway? So
It makes me uncomfortable.
wow.
Rip, rip.
So this looks like a very exciting game. It's doing very well in Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Definitely jump in because it usually takes like 6 months to a year, I think, for the thing to get to general retail afterward.
Yeah.
But if you liked Root, check it out.
Yeah, Root was hard to get a hold of for a while.
Right.
So if
and
you want to.
in some places
Yeah.
it still is.
Yeah.
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 But it didn't have the exciting name of the next game we've got, which is like
Oh.
So
yes.
I'm losing my freaking mind.
Well,
over
so
this.
before we get that, to extend the tension, Oath still has 4 days left.
Yes.
Check it out.
Yep.
So now, would you like to take this as third night?
Third night.
Fine. Like, you actually were the first and
I
third
thought it was
night.
second and third night.
No, I'm just one. I
know
only
what?
got one.
I got
Wow.
2.
So you're third.
How about we just come end night? Shyamalan.
The trees.
Go ahead.
My vow of nonviolence is working overtime today.
Some night
This
music.
game has 4 days left, and it is called Knife Tank.
The Shuffling.
The Shuffling. The Shuffling. Knife Tank. The Shuffling. I'll say it one more time. Knife Tank.
I feel like to understand Christian's excitement, you will have to go to the Kickstarter project
Yes.
You really
and
do.
watch the video.
I don't know if I want to buy this game. I don't know if I want to play this game, but I will watch this Kickstarter video over and over again.
And I usually don't say that for Kickstarter videos.
Yeah,
It is.
the premise of this game is that you are a tank with a knife on it.
So it's like a upgraded Roomba with a knife, but it's a tank with a knife.
Except it's a tank with a knife.
Yeah.
It's a really it looks like a very fast-paced card game in which you have different moves you can do on the other cards. And I don't just mean like different cards that you can play,
Yeah.
but like you have to like throw them across the table and drop them and
you gotta
flip them
blow.
and blow on them or whatever.
Yeah.
It looks like there's some really complicated crap going on in this game.
But high quality.
Yes, in order to get your knife tank across the table to stab one of the other knife tanks.
I think at one point you can strap a knife to a shark and strap the shark to your tank.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, is
Knife
that,
to a shark,
okay.
shark to a tank.
Yeah.
Knife, shark, tank.
Yeah.
Knife shark tank. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. Science.
Yeah.
So what really caught my eye, obviously, about this was the video on the Kickstarter, which looks like everybody that was like in the smoker's alley in high school. But they're all grown up now, but they're
Yeah.
still wearing the same clothes.
Yep.
And it's still like the same 6 white dudes.
Yep.
With their Hot Topic gear on, playing cards in the most raucous way I have ever seen, including a staged table flip that looked really boring.
Yes. And there may be rapping and rock involved.
Oh, also, they rap the entire game to you.
Yeah.
Like it is totally like it's like the Micro Machines commercial from 1988. They're just they got the cards and they rhyme and everything.
I feel like we would call Knife Tank inexperience.
Yes.
yeah, it really is. And
Serious.
I might pick it up just because, like, man, they really put a lot of work into that.
They did.
They did.
They really did.
They looked like they enjoyed themselves, though. So.
But like those dudes clearly all know each other.
Yeah. So, like, if you're looking for a ridiculous combat dumb game thing called Knife Tank,
Yes.
they've got you covered.
It looks like lunch money, except you get to throw the cards at each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
All right.
Emma.
Okay, up next we have Rocket Man, which is a new masterpiece from Martin Wallace. Martin Wallace, who's been a designer for decades now, but within the last few years is really making some amazing releases.
Right, which is why he's allowed to call his games masterpieces now.
Masterpieces. Probably someone else did that for him. Brass Lancashire, one of the recent ones.
Birmingham.
Brass
Birmingham.
right. Yeah, so Rocketman is what excited me about this Kickstarter is it's a journey into space. You're going to Mars, you're going to colonize, and it's a deck builder.
Yep.
So it kind of ticks most of the boxes about games that I'm excited
So
about.
you're the reason why we're getting a million games about Mars now?
Yeah.
Well, but
All your
they're
fault.
not doing it right, though. They have to do it right.
They're still doing
When
it.
in doubt,
They're-
make more train games.
Or yeah.
Keep doing it.
Trains
until
on
you do it right.
Mars.
Trains on Mars.
So, Rocketman, though.
Yeah, this one has a very nice style to it. It's got a couple different variants, regular, simplified, so you can do a simpler version. You're making spaceships that has cool spaceship
Yeah, I was
minis.
about to say, like,
Yeah.
there were some minis
There
on
are
there.
minis.
Yeah, so you can actually take your spaceship and go fly to Mars. Yeah, and you start with deck builders. So you have 12 cards. You're
Yep.
drawing them, playing them. Looks like cool style, and for this type of a game, fairly accessible.
Yeah.
So not like simple, but it looks like there's a lot of stuff going on. But it looks something that's a little lower barrier to entry than some of the. I think a lot of the Mars games have been pretty hyper complex and intimidating, and
Yes.
not necessarily enough fun for what you get. But this looks like a lot of game in a fun package, and it has 5 days left.
All right.
So check it out.
Great.
Groovy, groovy.
So with 6 days left, we have what I brought show and tell for. And this is another RPG on Kickstarter called Glitch. And it is, so these games here are Nobilis, first and second edition.
Oh yeah, I remember Nobilis.
Second edition in particular.
No dice.
There's a diceless RPG. And second edition in particular is one of those RPG books that is so pretty that it basically is like a coffee table book almost.
It's even the same size as a coffee
I
table.
loved reading a Nobilis first edition, but second edition is just gorgeous in. No, don't hit anybody with it.
No,
I
it's not
understand
a
you
weapon.
need to test everything, but we'll just. But like the graphic design, the layout, everything was gorgeous about
Well, that is really nice.
So these games are about playing like. Kind of, it reminds me a lot of Sandman. You're playing gods with weird domains.
That's what it always reminded me. It's exactly like Sandman.
You're playing these gods with somewhat surreally, weirdly interpreted domains, trying to like save the universe from like invaders from outside, kind of.
Or even itself.
Yeah, and you're also trying to like jockey with your other gods and stuff like that. Glitch appears to be basically, hey, all those gods were trying to save the world. Nah, they're just going to solve crimes now. Like it's very much like taking like the high concept of these heavy gods and being like, but what if they just ran around like the Scooby Gang?
What if Dream was a private detective?
Yeah. So like even the Kickstarter is kind of.
Then Neil Gaiman would just die and then turn over in his grave.
No, I think he would be like.
Oh wait, no, he actually wrote that book already.
So the Kickstarter project is even very much like this is a lighthearted, silly game until it's not.
Yeah.
So. If any of that sounded interesting to you, if you like games as kind of art objects,
Yes.
If you like
Or in the
playing
French,
weird gods,
objet
Very
I
French
strongly
today.
recommend that you check out Glitch. This is
Dungeons
also
and
from
Dragons.
the designer's other game that I don't have a hard copy of is Chubo's Marvelous Wish Granting Engine, I believe.
I feel like this is very fun.
I feel like I've seen that anime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes.
Okay.
You have probably seen that anime. So our last Kickstarter, with 6 days left, is Foundations of Rome, which is a city
building game?
Yeah,
Of course.
it's a city building game in Rome with a ton of tiny little miniatures and marble sculptures and a whole bunch of stuff.
It's a lot of stuff.
But part of the really interesting thing is that this is from Emerson Matsuuchi, who was the designer for Century Spice Road and stuff like that, which were really interesting, really simple, accessible games that came out relatively recently. So seeing him take on a much more complex genre is intriguing.
Yeah. Well, Emerson is amazing and genius and a wonderful person. So
I feel like you're endorsing this project.
Maybe.
I feel like you're endorsing this person.
Yes.
And all the endorsements.
Yes.
Take it.
Yeah,
Tell
so
me about Emerson more. What color's his hair?
Beautiful.
Dark, beautiful.
I love it.
Beautiful and
I love it.
luscious. But you know what, guys? I have to say that was it. That was it. That we got tape. That's all we got here at TableTakes. Well, one, thank you all for watching, and thank you to Chaldea Studios for lending us this wonderful studio space that we can invade every Friday.
Some of the people in chat were asking about it. They were very impressed.
Nice.
Yeah, no, the set's beautiful.
It's very nice. But hey, don't go away because we still have new release rundown going on, and our guest today
Is Amanda from Blue Highway Games.
Oh, from Blue Highway Games. So if you guys want to see games being played and demoed here, stick around. That's going to be starting in a few minutes.
Just to clarify, if you want to see games that are not played or demoed, then you can stick around.
They're talked about.
Okay, they're talked about. Sorry. Clarify. JK. Anywho, but don't forget to, click the follow buttons and then turn on notifications so you can see our lovely faces every Friday. But we don't just have this Friday show. Guess what? We also have Mondays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time with the Brothers Mirth. Wednesdays, we have at 4 p.m. Fireside with Peter Atkinson.
And
Emma.
Fireside is moving to D&D, cover D&D now.
Yeah, it's no longer magic. We're doing the background of the D&D.
Maybe I can come visit one of these days then.
And then that is also with Emma, our lovely host here. And then after that, at 6:30 p.m., Westgate Irregulars. If you ever want to see a bunch of writers play D&D, there you go. And of course, on Fridays we have Table Takes with myself, Christian, Emma, Derek, and thank you guys for hanging out here in the stream. Don't forget, if you missed the watching us here, you can always watch us on YouTube. That's a thing, all the things. But also, it's that time of year, and badges for Gen Con are now on sale, so check that out. And thank you again for watching. We're going to go do a short break before switching over. Bye! Bye!